Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you for coming to spend this evening with us, with the team, and learning really about thinking about mid-year review, how to end the year with a bang, how to continue from where we are, and then end it with a bang. So my name is Dr. Nkem Izamama, and as usual, I'm excited to have you here, and we are going to get going. But before we start talking about really the mid-year review, I want to talk about the expansive circle. I told you, if you've heard my story before, I told you that I took a leap and I pivoted from my normal 9 to 5 in the emergency department, and I built Phoenix Capital Investment and my expansive life, and I want to share that with you. So when I first started thinking outside of my 9 to 5, right, and I started thinking about building a business, becoming an entrepreneur, I was looking for a community, and that community in my mind was like-minded people, right? Those people who I thought of ourselves, those people who we thought of ourselves as the unicorn, who we weren't comfortable anymore with where we were, and we wanted more. And so it was from that place, that pain of wanting to find people like myself who wanted more, I created the Expansive Circle. And what it is, it's a private community, and it's really for high achieving professionals who just refuse to settle for surface level success, right? We're the people who are done checking the boxes, we're done really chasing titles. We want deeper impact. We're thinking about really how we are going to make a difference. We want intentional wealth, and we want a life that really feels aligned with where we're going, with our goals, with our future, and a very purposeful one. And so inside the circle, right, we don't just talk about growth, we actually live it every single day. Think about like curated mentorships, real conversations, thinking through like strategic wealth building moves, and a mindset really about rewiring, a mindset that tells you that you can take bold action, and then a mindset that tells you like transformation can start today. That's what the Expansive Circle is really about. So if you are feeling like, kind of, I was made for more, I want more, this is something that you definitely want to think about joining. And if you really want to, think about, again, betting on yourself, really wanting to grow, wanting to expand, wanting more, and looking for the right people to do it with, then this could be your tribe, because we're not just building wealth, we're building expansive lives, and it starts with kind of what's going on the inside out. So take your seat. I want you to get excited as we start talking. But even before that, we have a founding member opportunity. So this is really just limited to, it really is exclusive access where you're going to be getting monthly implementation sessions. Think about like what it means to be successful, but doing it alongside a team of people, a tribe who feel the same, and then having like complete resources to everything that we've put out, courses, videos, accountability groups, really getting support as we think through growing. So if you're interested, I'm pretty sure that we've put up a link. Someone from the team has put up a link, and they'll put it in the chat as well, just so that you get access to it. And Fern said this is awesome. Yeah, I'm excited. So website is myexpansivelife.com. And when you get there, you can get access to the circle and then start like just taking in all the information. And then someone from our team will definitely reach out to you and really get you connected and get you plugged in. Okay, so this is where it starts, right? I want us to get real for a second. And if you're here, you're kind of thinking, oh crap, where are my New Year's goals, right? Where are those New Year's resolutions that I set 6 or 7 months ago? And some of you might be sitting here feeling some type of way, right? It's August, and you can barely even remember why you got excited about January or the things that you wrote down. And, for us, January is arbitrary, right? You can start over any time. But for a lot of us, right, January 1st is the day that we're like, okay, we're going to start afresh. We're going to start new. And now it's 7, 8 months later. The question is, where am I? Where are those goals? And my goal today is not to shame you or to make you feel worse than you already do, right? I'm here because maybe, and just maybe, you're sitting here thinking, help me. Is it too late? I really want to end the year with a bang. Can I still turn this year around, right? Can I turn the corner and make something really cool and something amazing with the rest of the year? And the answer is Yes, it's an absolute yes. But I want us to be honest with where we are first. And I want us to be honest about some things first and foremost, because I think that will really help us in how we think about the future, or at least the next 5 to 6 months. But before we do anything else, right, we need to stop the shame spiral that's been kind of eating you for months. Let's say you were, let's say it was January, and maybe now, maybe in April, you're like, I didn't get anything done. And then right after that, you're like, well, now it's August. I really didn't get anything done, right? I want us to kind of just take away that shame. You know, that voice in your head that's saying things like, I'm lazy, I have no willpower. How is it August already? I never follow through on anything, right? Why am I even setting these goals? Like, those are thoughts, and those are real thoughts that are coming to our mind. Or even like worse things like, I'm a failure. Look at others, look at my peers, look at my community. They're crushing it. They're going. What is wrong with me? And I just want to tell you, stop, right? That voice, and that voice is familiar to me, but that voice is not helping you, right? It's not even telling you the truth, but you have to understand that, and you have to accept that. The truth is, you're not broken, you're not lazy, you're not a failure. It's just that you're human, and so am I, right? And we are really good as humans. We're really good at setting goals when we feel really motivated, when we're really happy, when everybody else is doing it, but we're somewhat sucky at sticking to them when life gets lifey, or life when life becomes busy, right? We have a really hard time doing that. So I think that in order for you to think about the next 5 months, how you're going to end the year, right? I want you to think about first giving yourself some grace, because when you do that, then you're going to start figuring out really how to finish the year feeling proud instead of disappointed. So that is my only ask, that as we walk through this hour, right, that you would give yourself grace, because I think that that is so important, because that will actually give you the power, the insight, the encouragement to keep going. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the January amnesia, or however you want to label it. But you know that thing where you've made all these amazing plans. December 31st, the month of December, you made all these grand plans that you're going to execute come January 1, right? And now you're like, what was I even thinking, right? In January, you were probably thinking things like, I'm going to work out every single day, or I'm going to meal prep every Sunday, because I'm going to, like, this is the year that I take control of my health. This is the year I take control of my wealth. This is the year I take control of my relationships. You're making all these grand plans, right? I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. every single morning, including Sundays. You're saying, I'm going to invest, I'm going to grow. You're saying in January, you're like, I'm going to transform my year, my life. This is the year. And then now in August, you're looking and you're like, like January, you're thinking that January you're like, what was wrong with her? Bless her heart, this sweet delusional angel. What was she thinking, right? That's what you're thinking now, because you made all these extravagant plans. But here's the real truth. And here's the thing I want you to understand, right? January, you were not wrong for wanting those things, right? That January you was just working with January information, right? That's what you had that month. That's what you were thinking. But who you are today, right? You have better information about what's actually possible, right? What really matters in your life. You have a better grasp of where you're going, as opposed to in January. And you now understand really what your life looks like and what goals really mean. So I want us to use that information to plan from now on till the end of the year, and even plan how you think about next year as well. So I want some time for some brutal honesty, right? This is where I'm hoping that you participate alongside with me. So grab a sheet of paper and just kind of think through, or open up the app notes on your phone, and then just make an inventory. And I want you to be really honest with yourself, right? The first thing I want you to think about is, can you remember what were like your big goals in the beginning of the year? And if you can't remember them, right, then just think about them as like data. So think about like one or two things that you were thinking about, or that you're in the beginning of the year, that you were like, these are the goals that I want to accomplish. I want you to write them down. And then think about, kind of, as you write them down, right, next to each of them, do an honest assessment. So, and if you don't have a sheet of paper, right, or if you have your phone, just really grab your phone and open the notes app and really write some of these questions down, because I think it's really important, and I think it'll help you, keep you accountable as you think about moving forward. So next to every goal that you had, right, ask yourself, did I completely forget about that goal? Or did I try it for maybe a week or two and then stop? Did I try it for a month and then life happened, right? As usual. Ask yourself, did I make some progress and then just lose steam? So did I like do it really well for the first quarter and then I just fell off? Or you can even ask yourself, like, am I doing really well? Is that a goal that I'm accomplishing? I'm crushing it even up until today, right? And then I want you to write down kind of how you feel, or think about how, if you can't write, let's say you're driving or you're listening to this later, just kind of think about how you feel. Are you upset? Are you disappointed in yourself? Do you feel like you wasted the last like 6-7 months, right? Are you embarrassed about, kind of your lack of follow through? What are the feelings that you're feeling right now? Are you do you feel like you're resigned to just being someone who doesn't achieve their goals, right? You're just like, I don't want to do this, everybody else is doing it, it's just not for me. Or are you content with how things have gone? That's kind of what I want you to ask. And whatever you're feeling is valid. If you're upset, that's valid. If you're excited, if you're encouraged, that is all valid. But you just have to start naming it so then you can work from where you are. So now I want us to figure out exactly what happened, because I think that if you asked yourself these questions, right, you would realize that it's not because you were lazy. It's not because you didn't have willpower. The questions I want you to be thinking about is like, did life happen? Did you get sick? Did someone get hurt? Did work, like your 9 to 5, while you're thinking about kind of building or thinking about doing extra things, right? Did your work get crazy? Did family stuff come up, right? Did you move? Did you have significant relationships that changed, that kind of wrecked the last 6 months, right? Did your financial situation shift? Did it change? You can even ask yourself, like, did your priorities change? Like, did you realize that some of your goals that you set weren't as important to you, and so you let them go? Or did you even think, like, did new opportunities come that took your focus? Like, did you embark on a new business venture? Or did you start a new hobby? Are you doing something, you start a new job that kind of maybe not necessarily derailed you, but changed your course, right? Or even like, did your capacity change, whether it's at home, whether it's at work? Did you come to the realization that like 10 goals is too much for me and I really needed to stick to 3 or 4? Did you learn something about yourself that made those goals feel unrealistic, right? Those are some of the questions that I want you to be thinking about and I want you to ask yourself. But more than that, right? This is what I want you to kind of take away. If any of those things happened, right, then your goals going off track, it wasn't a failure. At this point right now, it's information, right? You could take that information and you can then figure out how you're going to think about the rest of the year, and we're going to get to that, right? But I think that as you ask yourself these questions and as you're thinking about it, right, what changed? Did certain things change at home, at work, right? You've learned something about yourself. You've learned something about your life, your capacity, your priorities, your people, your relationships. That's all information and that's all knowledge. So it's not necessarily wasted time, right? It's valuable data that you can use to make better choices this second half of the year. So that's what I kind of want you to think about. I want you to feel empowered that these are the things that I know now in order to help me make better decisions. And as we start thinking about rewiring our mind and recreating new goals. Before we move forward, I want to acknowledge something, right? And you might be feeling right now. And it's like I said, when I asked you, how are you feeling? If you're disappointed, it's okay. And it just means that you care about your growth and your progress. And you're like, I know I can do better. I know I can be better. If you are annoyed, if you're angry at yourself, I think that's okay too, right? It just means that you have high standards for yourself and you really want to accomplish some of these things that you have set your mind. And if you're embarrassed, right, I get it, right? As I did this, right, I reflected on this past 6-7 months. I really sat down and I reflected and I said, what did I create in the beginning? Where am I now? So I really did inventory as I'm telling you. And some goals I was really embarrassed, right? Because I didn't get to where I wanted to be, right? Or like my plan for the year. But I think that's okay. And the reason why, maybe for me, the reason why I was embarrassed is because I told some people about my goals, which is a good thing, right? And now, when they bring it up, I try to avoid the topic because I'm not where I want to be. But that's okay, right? I believe in accountability, so I think I did the right thing by telling those people. But I do understand like that feeling of embarrassment. So if you're feeling that way, right? I get it. It's okay. If you are kind of resigned and you're like, you know what, goal setting is not for me, I'm not a goal achieving person, that's okay too, right? I think that it feels safer sometimes to lower your expectations than to risk disappointment. And so I think maybe that might be what you're going through, right? You're just like, I'm annoyed, I'm disappointed, this is not for me. All of those feelings I think are valid, but none of them define what you do next, right? None of them are, you don't get to like hold on to that, right? You get to think that, you get to feel that, but then they should not define how you act next, right? You can be disappointed with where you are, and then you can still choose to try again. You can still be like, you know what, I'm going to do this, I'm going to crush this. You can be angry, right? And then you still decide to move forward because you're like, I'm frustrated, I didn't do what I wanted to do. And you can still be embarrassed and take action. That's what I want you to understand as we start thinking about planning, right? Because this is the one thing that I know about you, especially if you're here today, right? You would not be here right now if you have completely given up. Even those people who think are resigned, or as you're listening, right? A part of you still believes that this year can still be different. And I wanna help you be a part of that win, right? Help you think through what that looks like. Okay, so we've been kind of honest with where we are, how we feel about it. And now I want us to kind of do it together, figure out where we go from here, right? This is not about pretending that the first half didn't happen, because it did, right? This is really about making sure that those mistakes don't happen again. It's about fixing, kind of taking what you've learned and then using it to help you fix and make better choices. I think that's the best way that you can win this rest of the year. And this is the beautiful thing right now, right? Again, you still have like most of the year left, right? We still have 140 days to like really change. And so it is possible. It's something that you can do. Okay, so I want to tell you again, right? The first 6 months, it wasn't a waste. Think about it as research. And then think about it like all the things that you've learned. Now, this is kind of where the work starts. I want you to start thinking and start asking yourself, like, what did I learn about my energy? Ask yourself, like, if you set goals, like if you really had big goals and you didn't accomplish them, right? At least up until now, ask yourself, like, what did I learn about my energy? Am I a morning person or am I an evening person? Do I work better with routines or flexibility? Like, ask yourself what you've learned about motivation. Like, does that, like, what actually gets you excited? What do you think? Like, how are you thinking about motivation? Like, that motivation that happened in January, is that the same that's holding you? What did you learn about your capacity, right? I think a lot of these questions, you should write them down, because then ask yourself, like, how much realistically can I accomplish without burning out? And then ask yourself what you learn about your priorities. What actually matters? What changed? What did you learn about kind of some of the obstacles? What was consistently getting in your way, that you need to kind of do away with? I want you to just take a few minutes, right? Just write that down. Write down the things that you learned about yourself the first half of the year. And if you want to share in the comments, share, I'll take a look at it. But really, and if you don't want to, that is okay. But I do want you, like, you're here, you might as well go all in, because this wisdom is gold, because you're going to use this, right, to figure out how the second half of this year can be different. When you ask yourself those questions, what are the things that you learned about yourself the first half of the year that really will help you pivot and how you think about this year? And I'll kind of give you guys a second to write that down as you're just thinking about what, even before you start thinking about your goals, whether you're changing your goals, whether whether you're keeping the same ones, right? Just kind of ask yourself, like, what did I learn about the last 6 months that will help me reframe how I think about moving forward and setting goals? Okay, so now it's time. Let's set some goals, but I want us to do it a little bit differently, right? In January, some of those goal setting that we did is actually fantasy based. So it's like, in a perfect world where nothing goes wrong and I have unlimited power, then it's going to be, I will lose 50 pounds this year, right? That's like perfect, where everything goes, where you have your best friend who lives next door to you, who's going to wake you up at 5 o'clock in the morning. You guys are going to run, you're going to sign up for a marathon, you're going to crush it, right? That's the January fantasy, right? But this August person, right? This August you who's sitting here listening to this, wherever you are, right? That person is more reality based in how they're thinking about these new goals they're going to set. So given kind of what you know about your actual life, right? What you've lived these last few months, right? Think about what your actual capacity is, what your priorities are, and then you can realistically, and there's nothing wrong with that word, you can realistically then plan for this next season, this next half of the year. So instead of saying something like, I'm going to work out every day. And I use health a lot because I think a lot of us can resonate with wanting to live a healthier life, wanting our hearts to work well, wanting our muscles to grow. So that's kind of always the easiest one. But you can, anything, like you can use it for any goal setting. So if workout doesn't apply to you, then you can do something different. So like, instead of saying like, I'm going to work out every single day, you could change that because now you understand kind of what your year look like. And then you could change it to, I'm going to work out 3 times a week because I know weekends are crazy for me, right? I just know that 7 days a week is very unrealistic, but 3 or 4, I can actually do that. And now I have proof as to what the last 6-7 months look like, and I can use that. Instead of saying like, maybe I'm going to save 1,000 every month, right? That you could change that to 500 because now you've learned that you need some buffer. But those are just kind of examples of rewiring your goals, right? And I want you to know that this is not lowering your standard. You're not lowering your standard. You're just increasing your success rate because we're humans. And the more that we some of us need positive reinforcement. So the more you win, right? The more you are consistent, the more you win, the more likely you're going to continue to do it. So instead of feeling bad about yourself by not working out 7 days a week, you feel fantastic because you did 3. So that's kind of how you have to start rethinking it as we start setting goals. I want you to think about some of the goals that if you accomplish them, right? So as you start rewiring your mind and you start thinking about new goals, just think about this. Like if you accomplished, let's say A by the end of the year, right? That could really change the trajectory of your life. So who do you need to be in order to be able to accomplish whatever A means, right? Whatever A means for you. This is really how I want you to start thinking. And I want to bring up this new idea of good enough, right? I know, like good enough feels like giving up, but it's not true, right? Good enough should not feel like you're settling because this is what I've learned, right? Perfectionism is the enemy of progress, right? Because you want to do it right. You want to do it so well and so perfect that you don't end up doing anything at all. And so if good enough is what you need to hear in order to do it well enough, in order to win, then do that, right? And that's how you have to start thinking. Good enough exercise is better than no exercise at all, right? Good enough, like doing, let's say you wanted to run 5 miles and you ended up doing 2, and 2 is good enough. But that 2 is better than planning for 5 and never doing any of that 5 at all, right? And so that's how I want you to start thinking about good enough. It's not settling, it's just making sure that you can stay consistent and you can be consistent. So fill out whatever, like think about what your good enough is. Like what is that thing that you want to do and that you're just going to do it just good enough or just well enough. And so that you can continue to do it and you can be consistent and you can see result, right? I've learned, and this is kind of a little bit of medicine, but like the way our brains work, right? I think it's just really neat because our brains are happy with good enough when we do it for months, right? Because every day we're winning and that we get that dopamine surge and we're just really excited because we're making a difference and we're moving. But our brains, they rebel against like perfect if we stop after a week or 2, right? And so that idea of like winning, consistently winning, and all of this, I'm kind of telling you all of this to set you up for what your new goals need to look like, to be able to give you the power, and also to make sure that you have grace in how you think about what the next 5-6 months are going to look like as you continue to like forge towards the end of the year. So that's how I want you to start thinking about. And a lot of it is giving yourself permission, right? This is, again, it's not about settling. It's about being strategic. It's about choosing consistency over intensity. and like you are consistent, you're building the reps every time that you do it. And I've seen so much success, especially talking to entrepreneurs and talking to high achievers. I've seen so much great success when they are consistent, because they're doing small every single day, and they're doing good enough every single day, and that builds up over time. So I want you to know that like this you is so much more, is better than the you were in the beginning of the year. And that's because you're now equipped with so much more information. So I want us to kind of use that to plan and think through how we're going to start setting goals. And as you're thinking about this, right, when you start thinking about your goals, I want you to know that to plan for what ifs. So if work gets crazy, what is your backup plan? So for each goal, right, I want you to ask yourself this question: what's going to try to derail you from this goal? What's the plan when that happens? And so that's what I'm thinking. Like, if work gets crazy, what is your backup plan? If you get sick, what is your backup plan? If you have unexpected expenses, what is your backup plan? How will you adjust? How will you remain on track? Those are the things that I want you to think about as you start setting your goals. If there's something that will derail you, come up with plan B. And even maybe if you're that type of person, you need to come up with plan C as well. And this is not negative thinking. This is not like, oh, I'm wishing for the worst. This is smart planning. This is being strategic and making sure that if there's anything that will come in your way, you can account for that, and then you can learn how to turn that obstacle into success. Okay, so now thinking about thinking about planning your comeback, right? Knowing that this is the right time, you're ready, you want to start planning. That's how kind of I want you to think about the next 5 or 6 months, right? Think about, who do I need to become in order to accomplish the goals? Who am I going to be proud of at the end of the year? Okay, so this is when I want us to start thinking about making new goals. And this is my only rule for you, right? I want you to only pick 3. That's it. So don't think about 10, just think about 3. Don't even think about 5. 5 is too much. Think about 3 big goals that you really want to accomplish today, because your time is limited and there's so many things that are pulling at your attention. So I want you to think about 3 things, right? I want you to pick a goal for health. And when I think about health, right, I think about like physical, mental well-being. So think the 3 categories I want you, let me go start with that, is health, wealth, and relationships. And I think if you pick a category, if you pick goals inside of these 3 categories, I think it makes you well-rounded and you're more likely to accomplish it. So for the first one, which is health, I think about it more as not just physical, but physical and mental. And when you think about wealth, right, don't think about it as just money. Think about money, think about career, think about skills, think about kind of where you want to be, or all the things that will help you think about wealth. And then relationship, think about community, friends, family, whatever that looks like. Those are the 3 kind of areas. And then each of the goals kind of needs to be something that you can make progress with in 15 to 30 minutes every single day, because when life gets crazy, you can still account for 15 to 30 minutes. So, and again, right, I use things like exercise because I think all of us can relate to that. But some of these goals, for even thinking about wealth, you could think about wealth in, like a business or a skill, and it could be even maybe thinking about writing a book, right? So as you think about these goals, they don't have to fit perfectly into these 3 boxes, but I think that this is a great starting point. And so this is something I want you to think through with me, right? Can you do this? Like, if you set a goal for yourself and you said 30 minutes, 3 days a week, right? Can you tailor those goals so that you can accomplish it? And the answer is yes. Are those goals simple, right? 15 to 30 minutes, 3 days a week, whatever that is, right? Is it simple? Yes. Is it doable? Absolutely. Is it life-changing? Like, if you stuck to this for the next 5 to 6 months, could it be life-changing? And the answer again is yes, right? So that's how I want you to think about these 3 goals. And then for these 3 goals, right, this is kind of where it gets practical. I want you to think about like your minimum viable progress. So what is the smallest thing that you could do that would still count towards moving you forward towards accomplishing this goal. What I want to do is I want to make this so simple, right, that you can actually succeed at this. Because if you are the person who is successful, if you see yourself as someone who's successful, then the likelihood of you doing this again next year and the year after, and then increasing and then allowing that to grow, the likelihood is so high and the trajectory is great. And so that's why I want you to think about that minimum viable progress. So this is exactly what that means, right? When life gets crazy, right, or you have a crazy day and you cannot do, let's just say, exercise again, you can't do a full like workout, right? I want you to don't just quit, right? Do not decide at that point that, you know what, I can't do my, my 30 minutes or my hour, so I'm just going to give up, right? I want you to then figure out, maybe you can do on this day, right? Maybe you can do 30 sit-ups or whatever that looks like, right? So if again, going back to exercise, but maybe I'll switch it up so that it could be something else that maybe someone else can relate to, right? Like if you're thinking about writing a book, right? And your normal is, I'm going to write 1 hour every day. And for some reason, one day you don't get to do that. Instead of saying, I'm just not going to do that, maybe that day, right, that you can write an hour, maybe you write an outline for the next chapter, right? So that is your minimum viable progress. Or let's say you want to speak on stage, right? And you're supposed to run lines. Maybe one day you don't get to do that. Maybe that day you plan what your next speaking engagement will be, and maybe you sign up for it, right? So you do something small that is still helping you get towards that goal that you want to. That's your minimum viable progress. Let's say for relationships, right? Let's use relationships as an example. Maybe you moved out of state and you're really losing touch with people that matter. And so instead of saying, I was supposed to have that 1 hour conversation, maybe just sending a thoughtful text could be the thing that you do, and you're still winning, right? You're still showing up. It's still part of your goal. You're still winning. So that's what that could look like, right? Again, right, I don't want you to think about your minimum viable progress as like lowering your standards. It's just about maintaining momentum. So we've talked about the 3 things, right? The 3 goals, that's it: health, wealth, relationships. What in those 3 areas can you use to set goals that will help you move forward this next year? Small actions create motivation. And so like a momentum is what will create big actions, right? Because it'll keep going, it'll keep snowballing, but you have to start small and you have to keep going. You can't start small and then not go, because it's never going to build. But that's how you have to be thinking about every day, that small thing that you need to do to get you to where you want to go. Now, you need almost like a GPS for your goals, right? Something that will help you course correct before you completely derail. And so I want you to pick a day. I like Sunday because for me, Sunday feels like, okay, I'm ready to start the next week. But that's a time where you sit down and you do a 10-minute check-in with yourself. Every single week, you have to do this. And when you do that, right, start with 10 minutes and maybe build up to 30 minutes, but every single Sunday, right, sit down. You can do it maybe in the evening. If you have kids, maybe after they go to bed, or maybe in the afternoon, right? You just take out 30 minutes, 10 minutes, build it up to 30, where you plan for the week. But the 3 questions I want you to ask yourself every Sunday is, how did I do with my 3 goals this week? Ask yourself what got in the way, and how can I plan better for next week? And then ask yourself, what is one small adjustment that I can make to set myself up for success? That's it. So, how did I do in the 3 goals? What got in the way? And what can I do next week to like really tee myself up for success? Those are the 3 things every single week. If you fall off one week, it's okay. Just get back on again, right? And this is not about judging yourself. It's not even about feeling guilty. It's just about learning and adjusting, right? So that you don't make the same mistakes. And so you keep going. It feels great when you can look back and accomplish some of the big goals that you really wanted to do, right? It feels wonderful. So think about what this could look like if you did this. I will tell you that some weeks would be great and some weeks would be just awful. But you want most weeks to be, really good. You have some in-between weeks, but again, all of that is good information. So write down your goals, The next thing is course correct. So every Sunday, really sit down, grab a journal, grab a book, write down your 3 goals, write down your plans, and then revisit it every week as a check-in for yourself. I think that it's really, really important. And then I think this is probably one of the biggest things for me, right? And a lot of the reasons why, January goals fail is because we try to do them by ourselves. And I think you have to fix that, right? It's so hard in this world to stay motivated when nobody knows what you're working on except you. It's hard to be accountable when no one is checking in on you, right? It's hard to celebrate your wins when nobody understands what they mean to you, how you're going, what your struggles are, and what your wins are, right? So I think that you need to tell someone about your goals. Don't tell everyone. You don't have to shout it on social media. Just tell 1 or 2 people, like your people, your person who will actually support you. Tell them what you're working on. Ask them to check in on you, like be vulnerable. Ask them to check in on you occasionally. Let them know the best way to support you. So is it encouragement? Do you need tough love? Do you need someone to listen? Do you need to get on a group chat or WhatsApp or group me, whatever it is, right? Slack, Teams. Do you need to just jump on a group with them and just say, hey, let's keep each other accountable, right? Choose people who will support you, not people who will judge you. Like choose people who have big dreams and big goals, who are like, who you can learn from, who you can exchange knowledge, exchange ideas, who you can, like I said, you can learn from, and then they can learn from you, right? You can keep each other accountable in this growth process. And also, again, right, you can find support in communities just like the Expansive Circle. Think about, if you're far away, think about online. Think about, just figure out a way, right, to get in community, even if it's like Facebook groups, whatever it is, right? But the key is finding people who understand that progress is not linear, right? And that trying again is always something that you can celebrate. It's worth celebrating. Those are the type of people that you want to be thinking about. Those are the type of people that you want in your circle. Okay, so we talked practical. We set goals. We talked about first what, revisiting or reflecting on the last the last half of the year, and then thinking through how we're going to move forward. And then we started thinking through the goals that you want to make, thinking about weekly check-in, and then thinking about accountability and people holding you, like your people holding you accountable as you think about growing. But systems only work if you use them, right? And that's what I want you to remember. And you need to remember that you have to remember why this is important to you, right? Because if you know why this is important to you, then you will always go back to your systems and actually use them. And this is the reason why, because motivation will fail and it'll fade, right? Excitement will wear off, like that, even like the excitement that you have today, you're like, yes, I'm here, I'm showing up, like that will fade. New habits, they always feel really hard. And when that happens, right, you need a deeper understanding of why you are doing this in order to keep going. And that's where you have to start thinking about finding your why. Why are you doing this, right? Why are you here? Why are you thinking about why did you think about reflecting the last 6 to 7 months? Why do you want to move forward? Okay, so I want to do something a little, whatever. I want to do something. Just close your eyes with me for a second. I want you to think about it's December 31st and you're reflecting on your year, right? So it's just for 2 seconds. If you're driving, don't close your eyes. But if you are in a place where you can, just close your eyes for a second. And I want you to think about, as you reflect on the year, I want you to think about 2 scenarios. Scenario 1, you're feeling the same you that you felt about 2024, right? You're feeling disappointed, like you wasted yet another year. Like you're the same person with the same problems and you haven't moved. Think about that person. Now think about a different person, scenario 2. You're feeling great and you're feeling proud. Not because you've achieved perfection, right? But because you showed up, because you gambled on yourself, because you bet on yourself, because you followed through. And you prove to yourself that you can change, that you can accomplish the things that you set, that you can accomplish the goals that you've set for yourself, the purpose for your life. You can do that, right? with your eyes closed, I want you to think about what scenario you want. Which person do you want to be December 31st? Do you want to be the first person who feels the same way about last year and probably how you feel next year? Or do you want to be that person who's like, I can climb Mount Everest at the end of the year or next year? I can plan towards it because I can set goals, right? How do you want to feel about yourself? How do you want to feel about your choices? What do you want to say about how you spent the second half of 2025? That feeling that you're feeling right now, that person that you want to be, that is your why. That's what you're working hard towards. That's what you're really working, like you're putting all your energy and your effort, it's to that person, right? And it's not just external goals, but it's the internal experience of being someone who follows through no matter what, who can achieve what they set out their minds to, what they set out their heart to, what the goals that they set, like they are a person that can do that. So you can open your eyes if you were closing your eyes, but this is something that I want you to try. So I do this a lot, right? I think my team knows, but I write letters to future me. So maybe you try it, right? I want you again to imagine that December you and write that December you, right? So think 5, 6 months. Write a letter to your August you, the person that you are today. What do you want them to know, right? Maybe you can say stuff like, thank you for not giving up. Like, look at what we accomplished in the last 6 months, right? Like, write that or think about it. Or in your notes app, like, just write a quick message, right? You don't have to write a full letter, but you can write maybe, I'm proud of you for choosing progress because, we were dedicated, we set our minds to this and we did it. Or maybe you tell her or him, we took small steps every single day and look at what we accomplished, right? We were able to start that business. We were able to start posting online. We were able to do whatever it is because we made that decision, right? We went from couch to 5K, whatever it is, right? But you did that. And so, tell yourself, let your future self tell today, that person, look at all the things that we accomplished because we were dedicated, because we did it. And this is not just a feel good exercise, right? This is almost like connecting with the person that you're becoming, because you will get there, right? And if you haven't, that's the whole purpose of you being here. But this is you giving your future self permission to start again, and then also giving yourself like guidance on how to do it. That's what this looks like. So the real work, I always want to touch on mindset a little bit because I think it's so important. The real work here, right? It's not just changing behavior. It's changing your identity. It's really changing the story that we tell ourselves about who we are. It is so important, right? Maybe you tell yourself, I'm not good at following through, or I'm not disciplined, or I'm not the kind of person who achieves goals, or I'm indecisive, like I can't make any decisions. Maybe you tell yourself those things, right? and I do the same. But what if, your new story is like, I'm someone who learns from setbacks. Like I learned from the last 6 or 7 months. And now like I'm making, I'm someone who tries again. I'm someone who shows up for herself, right? Maybe you start telling yourself those things, because every time you take action towards your goal, right? Even those like tiny actions, you're making a decision, you're growing, you're changing, and you're collecting all of this as new evidence for your new identity. So every time you do your weekly check-in, you're proving that you're someone who pays attention. Every time you talk with your accountability person, right? You're the kind of person who shows up even for, not just yourself, but for other people. Every time you do just even that small thing, right? You're telling yourself that you're not a quitter. You're not trying to be perfect, right? You're just becoming someone who really shows up. That is how you need to attack these next 5-6 months. And now we're about to wrap up. We're just coming to the commitment part. And this is not going to be like rah, I'm going to dominate everything commitment, right? This is just realistic, but it's also relentless. It's a compassionate commitment that you're making to yourself, the kind of commitment that you will actually keep. That is what I want you to think. So that same sheet of paper or that same notes app, right? I want you to just think about, before you commit to any goals, think about like coming to it from a place of compassion, because you have bad days, because you're going to make mistakes, because you have weeks that you maybe sit on the couch the whole week because you're just exhausted from work, right? But in those moments, I think you have a choice. You can beat yourself up and spiral into shame and go back, or you can treat yourself how you would want your best friend to treat you, or how you would treat your best friend who's struggling. That's how you should treat yourself, right? So make a promise to yourself, like, even as much as I'm going in and thinking that I'm gonna, I'm going to be the best, I'm gonna crush these next 5, 6 months, right? Also know that you can give yourself a little bit of grace. And so that's kind of what I want you to think as we start making that commitment. But this is what I want you to commit to in the next 5 to 6 months. And I want you to think about kind of making it realistic, right? What do you want to commit to? And it's not that you would use it to impress other people, but it's like, what actually can you follow through on, given where you are today, your real life, your real capacity, some of your real struggles as well. So these are the 3 things I want you to think about committing to. I'm going to show up for those my 3 goals, even if it's like the minimum viable progress that I can show up. But I am going to show up every single day based on kind of what I committed to, those 3 goals. I'm going to do my weekly check-ins, even if I had a terrible week. And then I'm going to be kind to myself, and I will find accountability. Those are the 3 commitments. So committing to the goals, committing to checking in, and committing to accountability, and knowing that you don't have to do this alone. That's all the commitment you're making. But do decide on what those 3 goals are. Do decide that you're going to check in with yourself, and do decide that you will find community of sorts. That's it. So now this is the thing. Is it simple? Yes. Is it achievable? Yes. Is it life-changing if you actually do it? And the answer is 1000%, not just 100%, but that's it. There's just the 3 commitments that I want you to think about making this month, right? In the next 48 hours. Yep, in the next 48 hours. And I'll tell you this, I said it before, motivation is going to fade. So in the next 48 hours, I want you to take action that proves to yourself that you're going to do something different, right? You showed up here, you're 50 minutes in with me. What do you want to take out of this, right? In the next 48 hours, you're not going to do something massive because it's not going to stick, right? You don't have to do something perfect, because again, nobody cares about perfection. Just take some action, take any action. I would say in the next 48 hours, if you didn't do it today, write down your 3 goals, somewhere that you'll see them, whether it's on your wall, whether it's in your journal, whether it's on your phone app, whether you text it to someone, but write it down. And then do one small action towards those goals. Make it tiny, but just do it. And I will also keep myself accountable and tell you guys what I plan to do. And then tell one person that you're working with, like, this is something that I'm going to do. And then schedule your first weekly check-in with yourself. Again, I do it on Sundays. You can do yours on Wednesday. Pick a day, it doesn't matter. Pick a time, it doesn't matter. Just do it. And 48 hours, I think it's soon enough that you still feel motivated enough that you can actually do it and then stick to it, because you have systems, you have processes in place, and you're going to take that first step. So that's what that looks like. The goal is not to figure everything out in the next 48 hours. The goal is just to prove to yourself that you're serious about starting again. And I was talking to a colleague, and I said, I will start over every single day if it means that I keep going and I keep getting closer to my goal, my purpose, what I'm doing with my life. Right? I'll start over every single day. But the reason why I do that is because all I want to do is continue to create momentum. And that starts with taking the first step and doing it every day. So you don't have to do this alone. I talked about the expansive circle in the beginning, and I want to tell you, in fact, just don't do it alone, right? We have the expansive circle, again, that I talked about. Really, it's for a group of people who are in the same boat as you, people who, again, are starting over, who are choosing progress over perfection, who want more out of their lives, who are learning to be kind to themselves. Those people who are pursuing growth and they want more, they want that expansive life. That's what the circle is all about. And when you join, right, why don't you just share 3 goals? Share your 3 goals there. This is accountability, right? And then get encouragement. I will be there. I will be encouraging you. And then check in on your weekly progress. That's what we want to do together. Also join Monday Momentum, right? It happens every Monday, where we meet and we just talk about topics on how to get your week going, how to crush your week, and then go from there. So this is the perfect place to come, so that we can all do it together. Ask for help when you're struggling. We always have a Q&A, and then share your wins and share your goals and share some of your struggles as well, right? So we'll celebrate the small wins. We'll figure out the struggles together. But it's with people who are like on this path of growth with you. It's not a place for perfection. We're not competing. It's just a place where real humans do real work to get real results. And that's really the goal, if I could keep it very simple. So I'm pretty sure, if not, my team is going to put the link in the chat. But the goal is just, let's do it together. And again, right, I didn't build Phoenix alone, and you don't have to build your dream alone. You don't have to figure out your goals alone. You don't have to crush the rest of the year alone. That's what the community is for. It's for people who are, who want to stop talking and really start doing. People are ready to bet on themselves. And then, like I said, crush the rest of the year. It's not just another group, right? Think about it as a movement of people who really believe that ordinary people, you and I, can do really extraordinary things, right? We want to become builders. We want to make impact. We want more out of our lives, right? We just don't want to wake up, go to bed, do the same thing over, right? If we have fears, then use that fear to fuel whatever it is that you want to do. And that someday, right? Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it next week. That becomes today. That's why you're here. That's what this community was created for you. It's to support one another, to celebrate our wins, and to really grow together. So if there's something that you want to do, if you want to start a business, if you want to write a book, if you want to, whatever it is, right? If you want to build a brand, right? Let's do it together. Let's figure out how we can grow, how we can we can link arms or link fingers or hands, and then kind of take it from there. So the question is, like, do you want to join us? I think the answer should be yes, because we are so ready to welcome you. And so before I wrap up, right, I want to remind you of something. The fact that you're here, the fact that right now you're listening, it means that you haven't given up on the year. You've decided that goal setting isn't just for you, but like you have also resigned yourself to being someone who is like, I want more, right? And that's kind of why you're here today. You showed up, you were honest with where you are, and you want to keep going, right? That takes courage, but we're going to do it together. And maybe you're someone who is like, I used to fail at goals, but that's not it anymore. You want to keep trying. You want the discipline. You're someone who wants to learn and grow. Those are the reasons why you showed up today. And honestly, the world needs more people like that, right? So that we can attack our goals head on. We can grow. We can make change. We can impact the world. Some of us here are like, we're choosing growth over comfort, right? And that's why you're thinking about what the next 5-6 months look like, because it's never too late to start. So this is what I want to remind you, and I think I said it earlier, is that when motivation fades, right, you might be tempted to give up again. But just remember, it's not too late. As long as you're breathing, right, you get to choose what happens next. You might have had a terrible today, but tomorrow can be better, and you just have to make that decision. So don't feel like you've wasted like the first half of the year. You just learned things, right? You've used that. You've grown in ways that probably you didn't even recognize. And then you're going to use that to really figure out how you're going to do the second part of the year. So on that note, I want to say thank you. Please ask questions. If you have questions, toss it. If you have fears, if you're like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, please feel free to kind of reach out, and I'd love to answer your questions. I think I see questions in chart. How do you personally stay connected to your why throughout the year, especially during challenging periods? I would say for me, I think it's community. I think it's making sure that like I'm not doing this alone, and it's constant reflection. So it's realizing that it's not about perfection. It's just about understanding what your purpose is, what your goals are, and so always going back to that. I have a poster on my wall that says, what did I do today to move myself closer to my purpose? And that's, so every day I see that, right? I'm reminded of why I'm doing this, why it's important. And for me, it really in community. It's being around like-minded people, people who have that same goal, that same desire, that same heart. I think that's the most important thing for me. And also, real quickly, know that challenging periods will come, right? Just know that, like, it's not just you, right? Everyone else has some challenging season they're going through. So sometimes I don't think I should use that as an excuse to not keep going, to not keep trying. And also understanding that, like, there are people who are looking for what I have to offer. And so that's part of my why. And so the more I continue to remind myself of that, I think the more important it is. How do you recommend balancing long-term vision with short-term adaptability? Oh, during a mid-year review. Okay, so I think that in order to get the long-term vision, right, in order to win at that long-term vision, you need a short-term plan. You need the short-term goals. So, for instance, right, you might say, I want to be financially free in 10 years, right? You might say that, and that's your long-term vision. But in order to get that, right, today, you have to start saving, or you have to start investing today, and you have to start doing the thing that will get you towards your long-term vision. So I think you have to think about the long-term vision as like the finish line, right? And then you have to think about like the short-term plan as like laps around. Let's say you're doing a I don't know, half marathon or something, right? And the goal, the end is that long-term vision, crossing the finish line. But like the laps and the miles, mile 1, mile 2, I think those are the short-term goals. And so I actually think that the long-term vision is, you see it, you know it, you recognize it. But I think the short-term goals are actually what you need to really focus on, because I think that's what's going to get you to the finish line. What are some red flags that suggest it's time to pivot rather than push forward with an existing plan? Ooh, what are some red flags? I think that, okay, I think that the first thing I would think of is maybe telling yourself. So a lot of this is internal. And I think that maybe you are not as honest with yourself. And so maybe you are always really, really optimistic that like tomorrow is going to be the day that you're going to start, that you're going to do, and you keep pushing it off. So I think one of the red flags is really not being honest with yourself. Another thing I think that in terms of like a red flag is maybe, again, it might be being around the wrong people, right? And so maybe those people are okay with maybe a more complacent, and they're okay with being comfortable. And so like it becomes normal to you. So I think it's looking at internal, and then looking at the people around you. And if you are able to realize that like some of those things are not right, some of those things or some of those people are not the right people, then I would think that you have your answer on whether to pivot or whether to continue on the path you're going. So it's really internal, and asking yourself the hard questions, and then looking around to see who's in your circle, right or wrong. What boundaries should you consider? Should we consider reevaluating mid-year? What boundaries should we consider reevaluating mid-year? So professionally, I think you have to ask yourself, like, where am I going, right? Am I in the right place that will allow me to realize who I want to be 5 years, 10 years? Am I in the right job? Am I in the right career? Am I on the right path? What am I doing in order to grow professionally, in order to grow, we'll talk about personal, but I think more from a professional standpoint, I think you have to have these mid-year reviews and check in with yourself from a professional standpoint. And the question that you're asking, right, is where am I going to be in 5, 10 years? Am I on the right trajectory to get me there? I think that would be a question, or a way like you can ask yourself. A boundary that you set is to ask yourself to really look forward. And I think personally, in terms of personal boundaries. So I would say, I would think about it as like, again, the biggest things I think about, right, when we think about like those three categories that you're thinking about in terms of growth, so health, wealth, relationships, right? I think personally, again, it might go back to people, right? Who are the people that you have? Who's your accountability? Who are you asking to maybe help you see where you are now versus where you want to go, in addition to asking yourself those questions? So I think some of the boundaries you should consider is maybe making time with yourself, reassessing who you are, who the people in your circle are they helping you move forward? Do you need to let go of them? Also, I would also think about like the things that I'm doing, right? Some of the habits or some of the even some of the goals that you set, right? They might not be the right goals. So I think that's asking yourself some of those questions and also assessing who's around you, I think is important. Any more questions? What's one reflective question you always ask yourself mid-year that others might find valuable? And these questions are legit. Um, I think that, and I think I mentioned it. I think that if I looked at my December person, right? Who I am in December, will I be happy with that person? So I think that that is a question that I ask myself mid-year. Like at the end of the year, will I like high five her and say, oh my gosh, we crushed this year? Or will I be like, oh man, this year kind of sucked. What could we do differently? And so that would be my kind of my question to myself is my future self. Can we meet and say we really did well this year? We achieved our goals, and maybe we didn't accomplish everything, but like the big things that we set out to do, we really came close to it. And again, it's not about perfection. It's not, I would say, scrap perfection, throw it out the door, but think about really figuring out exactly what you want, as long as you are taking steps to achieve it every single day, or as long as you're taking steps to move the needle forward. I really think that that is winning. So for me, it would be, my December self looking back and asking and being like, was I happy with our progress this year? Was I happy with how we attacked the year? Was I happy, on a month by month? Did I get the things done that I wanted to? I think that for me, that would be the question that I would ask, or I would look forward and ask backwards. But I would also say, please don't feel disappointed, don't feel discouraged, right? I think that you're here today, or at least you're thinking about it, right? I think that is the first step in the right direction. And I think it'll only get better from there. But I think you have to reflect. You have to look back. You have to see where you are. You have to, and you have to be introspective. You have to ask yourself the hard questions and really think, am I getting closer to my goals? How do I move forward? How do I continue to how do I build momentum to help me keep going? I think maybe those are all the questions. So I think we're a little bit over time. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you to everyone who showed up. Thank you for spending this hour with us. If you have any questions, toss it in the chat. If not, we will see you in the community. Have a wonderful evening.